Hey everyone, and welcome to the second part of creating events. This is a more advanced section aimed for event admins who actually have their own category somewhere on any of the RaidCentral websites. If you have your own category, you have a little more control over how things will work because you have a whole other set of options. For example, we'll look into the fist category. It's pretty much set up the same as any other category, with the exception that if it's their own category, I will set up their admins with special privileges, which they can access here. They will be able to create custom headers for the event category page, and everything basically shows up in here. Mind the timer. There is a time limit to making changes before the screen will simply just close off. This is the header. You'll see if I remove this, the time boxes will simply go away. And it's essentially a normal category page. So you can use this to create custom headers for the category page specifically. They used it to post up the timer boxes for their weeks, for their events which will occur every week from the online countdown website. Let me just refresh it. There we go. So that's very convenient because then all the members can always come here and see exactly what time the next event will be occurring at. So yes, the first box here is simply a header. The second box is the same as a user list that is in an event, where you can manually add someone's RaidCentral username and they will have access to links. But of course, because this is the category page, if you add someone's name here, they will have access to every event in your category. So if you have, for example, in this case, they have 5 events going on all at the same time, by adding someone's name here, it puts them into all 5 events all at once. And then removing the name from this box will again remove them, of course. So basically it's the same as your event user list, but it is global to the whole category. Now normally, each event, of course, has its own join box, which is located here. And when someone shares a link, it checks to see if this specific event will accept that type of boss, and then adds them in to this event if it is. On the category page, under admin settings, there's also another drop box. This one is different in that it is, again, global to the category. The way it will work is when someone submits to this drop box, which I'll show you. This is the basic. Right now it's not taking submissions. They've added a picture and they've added their own text to the Dropbox, nothing fancy. But you can spice up this Dropbox as well. There's a header and a footer section which will accept HTML. But let me just turn it on here for a moment. So this Dropbox for this category is now active. And it quite simply asks for a Facebook name, guild, in-game name. The RaidCentral username will automatically be pre-filled. For this page to show up, the user will have to be logged into RaidCentral. RaidCentral logins do last a week, so as long as the person has been on RaidCentral in the past week, this page will come up no problem. Otherwise, it'll just say you need to sign in. Once they sign in, they can come back to the page and the Dropbox will appear. Raid links that they submit into your category. One per line or even separated by a space is fine. Just don't try and put commas or other weird things. The way this works, this Dropbox particularly, is it will search through. In this case, he had 5 events going on. These 4 have just already passed, but if you have 5 current events, for example, and someone submits links through your category Dropbox, it will look through every event in your category. So in this case, it would look through all 5 events, and it would see if any of them matched the boss. And what it will do is, for example, he has separated voids from Telemachus in this case. And the first one, it doesn't say, but it's actually for kernels, the private shared raids. So what will happen is if someone submits kernels, it will go into the private shared raids event. If someone submits a void, it's going to go into voids batch 3, and if someone submits a Telemachus of the proper difficulty, it's going to go into their Telemachus event. So basically, it auto sorts the raids and puts them into the newest event in the category that will accept that boss type. So they have 3 voids right now, and what they did was when they started their event, they only had batch 1. And the admins were just watching the submissions, and once they had 80 submissions, he created a second event for voids. So anyone that submitted a void from then on, because batch 2 was a newer event, the raids automatically went into it. Basically, voids batch 1 was essentially closed as far as the category Dropbox was closed, because batch 2 was a newer event. And when it sorts the raids, it will put it into the newest event for that type of boss. And once they had another 80 submissions, he created a third event, just because they wanted, at the end of the day, to have 3 events with roughly 80 in them each, because of the way they run their system. So there's lots of little tricks and stuff, but the thing is to remember, the category Dropbox will auto sort everyone's submissions into events in your category, and it will just go into the newest one. So when you create a new event, if it's for a boss that the category Dropbox is basically collecting, all the new links will start funneling into that one. What else have we got? We'll turn that back off. Any links that are taken through the category Dropbox will appear in a spreadsheet for the admins in this format. Very simple. FB name, the link, RC name submitted, IGN, guild, and it's basically just everything that came off of the Dropbox. Admins can create small notes and also mark rows if they need to, which apparently isn't working right now, but we'll deal with that. Another advantage of the spreadsheet is you can, well, bad example, we'll go over this another day. The other thing, of course, you can do here is admins can directly add in links, and it is the same as mass adding links into an event specifically, except for, again, it will auto sort into the newest event that will take that type of boss. This category currently has kernels, voids, and telemachus events. If someone was to submit raids that don't belong to one of the events, it would of course be rejected because there's no event for that type of boss. And your submission is simple, just summoner name or RaidCentral name, comma, then the raid link. If you don't have the names, you just want to put in a bunch of raid links, that's fine. Just check here and put in a simple list of raid links in that format. Click add and it will sort them into the events and tell you which event it was put into. And you can add as many as you want here, be it 10 links or 10,000. Now the big trick here is if you have this extra control, well, one thing I want to say quickly, if you do decide to use the category Dropbox because it is simpler for the way you manage your events or whatever the case is, it is best to close off the Dropboxes for each event, of course, because you only want one way for people to add, otherwise you're going to be missing submissions. Like, all the submissions will go into the events, but if you're relying on using that spreadsheet and half the links are submitted via the category Dropbox and go into the spreadsheet, and the other half are submitted directly into the event using the event box, it's just going to be a little more confusion for the admins. So if you are using that category Dropbox, just turn off the Dropboxes in the individual events because you don't need people using those. So hide the join box there. And that way this event no longer basically is taking submissions unless it's through the category Dropbox. So it'll just simplify things for the admins. Since there are 2 separate Dropboxes that can be used to put links into an event, always set up your event so that one is closed and one is open. Never have both open at the same time because it will just complicate things. So as I said, they used a little trick here. What they did was they wanted to have 3 batches of voids, but they wanted them to fill up automatically. So they created the first batch, and once they had 80 links or roughly 80 links, and the admin noticed that it was where he wanted it to be, he simply created a second batch, a second event, and then all the new submissions from that point forward went into this one because it was a newer event. And once that one hit up to 80 raids, they created another event. And if that one had hit 80 raids, you probably would have created another event, just because they wanted to be able to release them one event at a time every couple hours. The way they did that, so that they would have control, is they simply took the username list from all the voids. So they went into these three. They went into their admin screen. And right here there's a unique username list. This is the list of all the RaidCentral usernames for the people who did submit into this event. So they just took these names, put them in a notepad or something, added in the batch 2 and batch 3, then they had a username list, which was everyone who had submitted voids, and simply entered that list into the allowed users here when they wanted batch 1 to open. So when batch 1 opened, it had the users from all the voids. And then a couple hours later, when they wanted batch 2 to be open, they just put the same list in there. And when batch 3 opened, they put the same list in there. So they were able to control when the event essentially opened and who it opened to. I'm just trying to think what else I can say right now for category settings. Another option I have actually just put in is if you have your own category, you can create an event and simply have it set up so that, for example, they have these private shared raids. If this event was, say, bonus raids, just admins had a big list of raids that they were sharing out with all the event members, right? Rather than having to worry about actually adding the people from all the various events, you can now go into an event, even when you create it, and there is an option. Users are granted access if they have a valid submission in another event in this category. So if this was chosen, the effect of that would be they've got this event created up. It's full of bonus raids or extra raids for the event that the admins have supplied, whatever the case is. But if you choose that option, then anyone submitting raids into any of your other events that are currently running will get access to this one automatically. So it is, of course, your private category, your private raids. But once someone did submit a valid telemachus or a valid void, then they would be automatically entered into this event as well, as a bonus. Basically, the only way members can be added into your events is if you have checked the box where they'll get into that event by simply submitting into one of the other events, or if you have it set up so they automatically have access after so many raid links have been submitted, which is the option here. Right here. So that's the thing. In this event, if someone submits one link, they're going to have access automatically. They will simply have access to the links after submitting one. And the other way, of course, is by simply adding their username specifically to the list. And you would do that manually from your spreadsheet or from the list of people who have supplied. But so that's the thing. Anyone in here, if the name is added, they have access to the links. If they've submitted one valid link, they will have access to the links. Or if you have made this a bonus event essentially, and all they have to do is be accepted into one of the other events, this will work the same as well. And the way this works is they have to have been actually accepted into one of the other events, not just have submitted so far. All right. And that's all she wrote.